Oh, it's been terrible. You know, it's tough. It's a tragedy. You know, here one day, gone the next. Something that I've been through, and us older folks have been through quite a bit. But when you take these young guys to go through something like this, it's different. Uh, I think that they've handled it fairly well, but you know they wouldn't handle it as well as most people would that's been through it. But it's kind of like losing a brother. These guys have rallied pretty much around each other, and you find out a lot about people when you have things like this. And you know we've got a strong bunch of guys that have fought through it, but it's nothing that you want to go through again. There's nothing but it's nothing that they can't handle. You just hate it for the families and for everybody that's going to have to keep dealing with it every day. But to this point, I think these guys have worked through it well, and it's been a very tough time.
How do you move forward? Like, I know you talked about it. Do you just try to put it behind you now and not bring it up anymore, or is it still there so much in front of them that you can't do that?
Well, you know, time heals all, and we know that. It's something that will be in the back of these guys' minds for a long time because it happened, and they were all friends and teammates. But it's just you know, it's life. It's something that you unfortunately that you don't want to deal with or have to deal with, but they've had to deal with it, and coaches and administrators and the whole group here at University of Cincinnati. But I'm gonna tell you, everybody's been great. You know, from the hospital, from 1:30 that morning when I arrived at the hospital, it's been unbelievable the support that we've had from the doctors, the nurses, the security, people involved, and they make it a lot easier. It's not easy, but they've made it a lot more easier to handle for the players and the coaches and the families than you can imagine.
Have you had experience anything like this as a coach?
Yeah, I've had several of these as an assistant and several as a head coach, and you just don't want to have to go through it. And when you deal with 120 players every year, unfortunately, it's going to happen. You know, accidents happen, and you hope it doesn't, and you talk about it, and you visit about it, and you go through certain situations with your players. But you know, things like this are going to happen.
This is your first day back on the field, right?
No, we came back on Sunday. We came back out, and you know, I talked to people at the hospital. The hours that I spent there about, you know, the people, what do you think? What should I do? You know, with this group, you know, it happens on a Saturday night after a game. And the biggest thing, you know, was, hey, you got to keep going. You got to get their mind off of it. You've got to continue to do things that you're doing, stay in your routine. And I think that's helped. You know, it's not a time to just sit around. Obviously, a lot of these guys have gone to the hospital. We all went to the funeral. We still are having prayers for Mark because he's in tough shape, and they know that. So it's one of the things that we'll continue to have to deal with.
Is there any update or anything you can tell us about Mark at this point?
No, he's in critical condition. You know, that's the only thing I can tell you. You know, we try to go over and we take turns going over, but it's going to be a process. You know, it's not anything that's going to happen overnight. But there has been some progress. But you know, it's just it's a time issue.
What was it like working with Ben?
You know, Ben was like a big clown, a teddy bear. He was one of those kids that, you know, I've had to kick in the butt a couple of times about grades and academics and class, and I have to do all of them that way. And so you build a certain bond with every player. And Ben was one of those that liked to come up to your office. A lot of them like to hide from you, but he'd want to come up to the office knowing that either it would be a good conversation or one that wouldn't be quite as positive. But you know, as freshmen, he was growing up. You know, when they're freshmen, they learn from experiences. They learn from their teammates, and unfortunately, he's not going to be able to learn anymore. You know, that's a sad part of life.
You gonna wear patches on your uniform? Or did you
On our helmet, yeah, we'll have his number and name on our helmet.
When you get that call, I mean, it's just got to be sick to
Yeah.
your stomach.
You know, I put my cell phone in the same place every night next to my bed on a wooden table, and I put it on vibrate. And you know, and I tell people this in banquets and meetings and all these. You know, if my phone rings after 9 at night, it's not ever any good. And you know, because again, I'm dealing with a lot of kids, and you hope it's not the message that you get that I got Saturday night. I mean, you just hope and pray. And I got a call, and I woke up a little late to answer it, but I looked at the message, and it was our trainer, and I knew something had happened. I didn't know how serious, and then he told me that there had been an accident, and that some of our players had been injured. He didn't know to the extent. I said, well, let me know as soon as you can. I'm putting my clothes on. Where were they at? And he told me, you see, they were headed that way, or I didn't know whether they were there or just headed that way. And then he, on the way to the hospital, he called and told me that we'd lost one and two in serious condition. So that's not a call you want to get.
Anything else, guys?
Coach, how important is it for you guys to be on a bye week this week after that kind of event?
You know, it'd have been tough, but these guys would have fought through it. We could have played. It's happened to a lot of teams across the country, pro, college, high school, and they've turned it around pretty quick. It would have been difficult, a lot more difficult for all of us, because we know where our mind's at, and so that's just made it a little bit easier knowing that we didn't have a game this week. And then after tomorrow, our players can leave and go home, or go home with somebody else, and I give them Friday and Saturday off because of the open date, and we'll start back Sunday. And they could have gotten away from it a little bit, or will get away from it. But if we'd have played, it'd have been business as usual. It'd just been much, much harder.
When you said you'd been through this before, had that been a while back? How long has that been? And did you learn from that maybe to help you in this situation?
Yeah, I had a kid drown when I was head coach at Ole Miss, and an offensive lineman, and it was actually during the summer. It wasn't during the season, and so I knew what was coming. I knew the seriousness, obviously, of the family and then the players. Again, these are kids. These are not adults that have to look at this, and some have probably never been to a funeral like yesterday, and they got their eyes opened. And a lot of the guys have never been in an intensive care unit like they've gone to this week and walked in and see what they see. I mean, but it's reality. I tell them this is life. This is reality. This is what you'll deal with for the rest of your life. And I dealt with it there at Ole Miss, and it was the same situation. Just tough, but again, it was not during the season where you just had to keep on, with your same routine.